What's going on, believers? Floki Vikings. I'm broadcasting now from where I think Floki's going to go or where it's going to end up. I just wanted to get here first. This is not financial advice, but I'm always right.
I can't wait till Friday. Everybody's getting sideways.
All right, guys, Floki's trading at 43.26. That's down about 15% to the previous day, but let's take a quick look here. There was that cascade to the downside, which you're going to experience when there's a transition, and we are on, let's face it, version 4 of Floki. But should we be concerned? Absolutely not. Here we go, moving towards that upside one more time from a low of 36. Now, 36 was an absolute gem of a buy-in opportunity. Think about where you've been as a Flokester. Think about where it's been going, and you are going to end up in a brilliant place at this price level. So the devs also released the Nottingham upgrade fixes to medium, and it explains in detail exactly what it was that happens. Besides upgrading the Floki smart contract to allow for DAO functionality, the Nottingham upgrade also fixed a major version 1 inflation bug that only recently came to light. While preparing for the upgrade, Floki's lead dev Jackie did a thorough audit of all the previous Floki smart contracts since version 1 to ensure that the new contract is flawless. He also audited token distribution during the version 1 to version 2 migration. This audit uncovered an inflation bug where people got more tokens than they should get during the V1 to V2 upgrade. When the original Floki dev launched the first version of the token, he had advertised the original contract as having a fixed supply and a 10% tax on every transaction, 5% going to marketing and 5% redistribution. In actuality, the contract had a massive inflation bug that increased supply 14 times in less than 2 weeks. This inflated supply was then being distributed to holders. This was an existential crisis, and community members pushed the old dev to fix the bug and upgrade the contract. He chose to abandon the project. After the original Floki dev abandoned the project and another dev brought on to revive it, disappointing the community, an emergency plan was initiated through a third dev who had to create a new contract and help revive the project within just 24 hours. In such a short time frame, running a script to determine what actual inflation was before the version 2 migration on such a short deadline was unrealistic, so the team at the time came up with the following formula to address inflation based on when holders swapped their tokens at the time, believing it is fairly addressed the inflation. All wallets before and up to 12 hours before the deadline receive 100% of their tokens, and then on down the line you see how much of the tokens that you would get during the transfer. When our lead dev Jackie audited the distribution recently, however, he found out that this formula wasn't enough to account for the inflation that occurred at the time, and that many V1 holders got significantly more tokens than they should get. Even worse, the airdrop calculation formula only exacerbated the issue. Essentially, the issue is the massive airdrop for certain addresses that exploited a combination of token inflation and airdrop rules. The exploitation was possible due to inflation being possible, the flawed airdrop amount calculation, and the rush of transfers of addresses trying to get into the airdrop. Effectively, this comes down to an inverted tax on people's conscience. They're going to explain this to you and tell you exactly what it was that had happened when you were getting what specific amount you should have gotten, what you actually ended up getting. So this has been addressed and is no longer a part of it. So a note real quick about the blacklist of bigger wallets that happened. It's important to note that the original blacklist referenced in this article isn't a permanent one or an indictment of crime. Many of the beneficiaries of the bug most likely had no idea they were beneficiaries. The teams also had no idea there was such a problem until an audit of the distribution was done while preparing for the DAO upgrade. However, some of the beneficiaries did know and have been dumping these excess tokens in an unhealthy way that has been negatively impacting the Floki liquidity pool, and that's what I pointed out yesterday. The purpose of the blacklist isn't to stop people from having their tokens, it's to prevent affected users from selling their excess tokens into the Floki liquidity pool. The committee will review each complaint and address on a case-by-case basis while also looking at mitigating factors. What they're looking for is your trading volume looking like you knew what it was? Now, if they made a mistake and if they made an error, it's understood and understandable that some people would look at it and not realize what it is that happened. But let's face it, this is crypto. Most of you know exactly what it is that you're doing, and when you see some kind of bonus like that and you know that it happened, then you would probably mention it at least to somebody. And if you didn't, then realized it because you're on the inside, then you took advantage of it. That's where we are, and that's what ended up happening. But now that's fixed. Now the people who were involved, the people who took advantage of it, the people who ripped off a lot of people for a lot of money, they're no longer here. They no longer have an opportunity to do that to you, the investor. So let's move on. All right, guys, it's my understanding that somewhere right about here is where Elon found that Viking ship. So we're in a great place. Everything that was a problem, everything that caused an issue, everything that had people taking from you, the unwary investor, has been addressed. It has been taken care of. Now, you should obviously be concerned about that when it happens. You should be pleased that it's been taken care of. And you should remember one very important thing. I'm an outsider looking in at what I see in Floki. I'm not an insider. I talked to a couple of people there. I've talked to a few people here and there, and I make myself available when there's chats and stuff like that, and I say hi. But I'm just an investor, and I hold a bag, and I'm on the outside looking in. And what I see are two things. I see several errors that were unforced. I see several errors that were part of the admin team or the development team in some way that might have caused some issues of concern going from the beginning all the way till now. But when we stop to think about what the issues are, what the problems have been, what the concerns are, think about where you are. You've gone from basically zero in version 1 to, I think, a $5 million, $10 million, $15 million market cap, somewhere like that, to version 2, which did a little bit more, got into like the 60 million range, I think, something along those lines, maybe 100 million, to version 3, which took you to $3.3 billion market cap. Now, in the meantime, the people who had the extra tokens were quickly draining you, and through whatever they were doing, they should not have been doing, and those people that were smart enough to be aware were aware and knew exactly what they were doing. So they're not here anymore. So where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us sitting right here on the precipice of the release of Valhalla. That leaves us sitting right here on the precipice of a national advertising campaign that put us in the middle of a DAO, where you now have a voice in what happens going forward. So everything that could possibly be to your benefit is either coming right now, and I mean immediately, or it's already here. So if you're not on the Floki train, this is one of your last stops. I told you this yesterday. When I told you this yesterday, the drop went to about 36. So if you waited for your dip, which when I tell you that now is the time, please always remember that I am telling you, pay attention and watch for a dip. Look for an opportunity to make your play and get your buy-in. You know how to do this. We're not recreating the wheel. You know how to play a dip. Play your dip. Get in at the right time and make yourself some money. Make yourself some life-changing money, because Floki got to $3.3 billion market cap. And guess what? It's going to get there again. This time it's going to have a lot more behind it than just hopes, dreams, and an Elon tweet. This was not financial advice, but I'm always right.
I'm looking for the good life, good life. Sitting on top of the world, I wanna be shining like diamonds and pearls. I want you to go.